You see, go there on Thursday.
Yeah, do you hear what we're doing tomorrow?
How's the kiddo doing?
The bees, yeah, because they're half there. I saw his rider at practice there. I had the fifth graders and they had those. I don't know where they've been practicing. I'd say it's going to be it'll be good for them. Change the pace. Sorry.
Good evening, how are you? No, I can just put your haircut. Yes, I do.
Well, I think it's good for them to see different characters.
Sure. How are you? Doing well.
Yeah, no.
Who won?
Where was that at?
Yeah, you were included. It was terrible. Only the cool people. Phillipsburg. That's where the area or take a special trip to Bowline. That's my electric version. I guess the weekend before in Roxy. Yeah, one of the kids on 5 or 6 3.
That was it, yeah.
Yes, could we?
What's going on? And then never take him out. Leave him in the entire day. And the lower level.
Yeah, that's right.
We fall in somewhere.
Yeah, continue.
We're not trying to leave this box.
Ready to leave this in
That first hit?
She's still in the
Here's that.
Please don't let it cut. That's so I can order it. Says Robert.
Okay. No, that's fine.
I think it's
It's a popular place. Every hour, we get with our grade teams every hour, 9, 10, 11, 12, 9,
okay. So you did see him in that. They play at the exact same time until the end. She's got like 6 and 7 o'clock when we would have been out. They visited with you. See George. What's that? It's like on a calendar.
Picking on her?
Sounded like you were busy for a while. Grandkids? There you go.
More to go. Stay here?
I was supposed to go to a communications training and the person who was teaching me to do the training was from Washington DC and they got stuck. They couldn't get there. So they just called up. As I was getting ready to head out, like I was in the car, I was ready to go.
I drove by and told her she was I was too fast.
Really? I see him.
I don't know.
I can't make it out.
So they don't have to walk back through. They're thinking about that before, so there's not so much they have to carry.
Seven people.
Maybe I've grown recently. In my late 30s.
Stay with me here. I was like, okay, now I see it. Where's the meal? Good. Access points? Good. Yeah, but I tried to make sure that figured out before we were out that way. That way you guys didn't have to, keep it right now or anything, so. Good. It's a deal.
We did it after my freshman year. Whatever you get, there's a whole, you have to dress, the seniors got to go, all the freshmen. Yeah, well, football.
Yeah, but still
There's only 3 freshmen, we see that for varsity in here. That's just the way tells us something about it. Yeah.
We're going to call the USD 489 Board of Education meeting for Monday, February 15th to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I would make a motion to alter the agenda and delete the nutrition services software bid and move that to the next work session.
Okay. Have a motion made on the table. We get a second, we can open it for discussion.
I second it.
Been moved by Board Member Waddell and seconded by Board Member Fox. And we'll open it up for discussion.
Reasoning for moving it is just information coming in, and a few of us board members have not had time to properly review the information. And there wasn't a presentation made at the last work session, so that would be my reasoning for moving it. I guess the question would be, is it imminent that that gets approved tonight? Is there a holdup if it doesn't?
Jessica?
Well, we would like to start the process so we could get it implemented by
The training, I know.
the training in April, and they need a month or so to process that. So it would be ideal, but I guess it's up to you. I didn't have the bids at the work session, so they only came back last week.
And I know now that with this year's calendar, we're leaving 2 weeks in between the work sessions and the board meetings. And I think this is the first timing issue we've truly had with that. When do we start, would the next work session be one of the ones where we were going to notice it so that we could take action? Dean?
It was,
March would be the first one.
So we could take action at that work session that night?
Yes, you could, if it was noticed on the agenda.
we'd have to note it that way, that and the bills.
Okay.
Jessica, do you feel that would give adequate time if we did it at the first March work session?
Probably. That
And
would
that's
be
like the
fine.
6th,
We need
7th,
more
something like that?
information.
7th?
It's
7th?
So it'll be
So,
a month and a
So-
half before the training dates.
Yeah, so.
and the implement, oh, I'll do it up there.
yes.
Please,
You want me to come up there?
please.
Yes.
As part of the proposal, the implementation plan had us starting the
I think it was the second week in March with our meetings to plan out, the transition process. If that needs to be pushed back or squeezed together, they would probably be flexible for winning the bid, but I mean, it's a process. It's not just we can just train and here we go. It's kind of because we have to get all of our stuff transferred over and they need a certain time limit to do that.
But is there a reason, besides already having some things set up, is there something imminent about having it in that time frame? I mean, if it pushes the training from April 20th and April 22nd back some?
Then we'll just have to start it in August, which is what we were trying to avoid.
Start in August.
The training and
Well, I mean, like, we would...
transition to what?
Yeah, because the idea was to train at the in-service in April, and then start it in May so we can get all the kinks worked out and have our backup if needed, make sure everything gets transferred properly. And then, when July and August come around, we're good to go and there's no more chaos at the beginning of school than there needs to be. That was the idea of putting it at the end of this year. So I guess if the work session's that first weekend, March, I mean, if you can approve it then we can probably squeeze it in that time frame.
You still could?
I would have to look, but I'm pretty sure that they would be flexible.
Okay.
And when you refer to they, the manufacturer?
Yes, the company.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, I will call for the vote to approve the agenda with the changes made to move item D to the next work session, which I believe Sarah will notice as well, that we will vote on that then, that in the payroll. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Best of the Best Awards presentation. Best of the Best is designed to recognize those students or staff that go above and beyond their day-to-day activities. They truly are exemplary in every way. The winners will receive a limestone plaque, which they've already gotten, as well as a gift certificate from Whiskey Creek and/or Gella's Diner. The winners have been nominated by their peers, and our student Best of the Best winner this month is Madeline Waddell. Madeline was nominated by Craig Pallister, and I believe Mr. Pallister is here to say a few words about Emily, or sorry, Madeline. Had last month's in there.
I would love to say a few words about Madeline, and like I said, this is one of my favorite opportunities when one of our students get picked for this award, because as I was meeting with them as I came in the door, I get to watch students for 3 years develop, change, just unbelievable at the middle school level. And Madeline, as I was recommending her for this, has just grown over the 3 years, physically, emotionally, socially. I know the outstanding stuff she does in the classroom, but I've also been able to watch her on the fields and on the court for the last 2 years since we have 7th and 8th grade sports, and also in the leadership roles around the building. And I always hear Mr. Straub in the high school say, pick something and get involved with. She has a full plate because she takes it seriously, her leadership roles, her academic, school activities, and I know she's involved with a lot of things out in the community also. So this is a well-deserved. What I would like to do is, I had the opportunity to do one prior, and I thought back, the student, Madeline has done outstanding, but it takes more than that student. I'd like for mom, dad, and mother, come on up. It takes a whole family anymore to have an outstanding student and be able to do all the things and be able to get her to this point. So, Josh, do you want to come up?
Yeah.
Come on up. You're part of this. Madeline, congratulations. You were well deserved. Okay, thank you. Thank you. We look forward to having you. Thank you. Okay. You want to shake the hands of the school board? Congratulations.
And congratulations again to Madeline Waddell. Our second best of best winner this month is for our staff, and this month's winner is Donna Hudson Hamilton. Donna was nominated by Dana Stanton, and I believe Dana is here. Yes, to say a few words.
Thank you for this opportunity. The nomination that I filled out for Donna was completed back in August when we moved the Early Childhood Connections program to the former Washington School. And when you say that, it sounds like you're moving one building from another building, but in reality, what we did was move 6 classrooms, about 60 staff, multiple buildings. When I think about just my little bitty office and my one filing cabinet, it was a nightmare. But when I think about what Donna did in the very hot summer to move all of those programs, I know she was there late most nights, and that's something in itself. But the thing that impressed me the most, and the thing that I heard from so many of my coworkers, is that you never heard a raised voice or a sigh of exasperation. All you had was the typical Donna sweet spirit, encouragement, let's make the best of this situation. And by the time school was ready to start and all those wonderful children that we serve were there, we had classrooms that were unpacked, ready to go. We had not one, but how many new playgrounds that were set up. So many things that you wouldn't even imagine coming into that sort of project. And she did a wonderful job like she does all the time, but I really thought that was above and beyond what a typical supervisor or building supervisor would do. So we just wanted to thank her for her hard work and the wonderful spirit that she has. And I know that we have some staff here who have come to, I know they would second everything that I said, so stand up, Connection staff.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you to my staff. I just feel very fortunate to be working in this district and working with these amazing individuals. They are all hardworking, dedicated, committed teachers and staff members, and they make my job so much easier. And I just appreciate all of them very much and the work that you do. Thank you.
Congratulations again to Madeline Waddell and Donna Hudson Hamilton, and I'd also just like to thank Gellas and Whiskey Creek for their generosity in donating the gifts that we have for them as well. Next item on the agenda is audience participation. First and only opportunity to address the board with comments or concerns. Yeah, scared them all away. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the next item, which is report of committees.
We just have the Hayes Rec Commission minutes and agenda attached.
Perfect. Next item on the agenda is communications from other organizations.
And Mr. Straub, I believe, is going to step up for a second.
Good evening. I want to introduce to you Dusty Dreher and Jarrett Funensteel. They've both been at Hayes High School for more than 10 years, and prior to that, they went to Hayes High School. Math is an area that continues to excel at Hayes High School in state standards as well as ACT score. It's usually our highest subs test score, and we've come to expect that. And you're going to hear a lot about not teaching with technology, but teaching with technology and learning with technology. So I'll turn it over to Jarrett and Dustin.
Thank you, Mr. Straub. Thank you, Board, for hearing us. It's always a pleasure to present what we're doing at the school with technology and just helping kids learn. Dusty and I and many others at the math department kind of give you a little history of where we kind of started, and we're just going to start in 2003. That was the first year before Hayes High got their laptops when we went one-to-one in 2004. So back in 2003, our technology was basically, we had desktop computers in our classrooms to take attendance and put grades in, and we taught via those wonderful overhead projectors, which some of you may remember from back in your days in school. And we have come a long, long way from then. Dusty and I chatted this afternoon, just if we really wanted to talk about how much technology we use in the classroom, we could be here for over an hour easily, but we won't do that. We'll just try to make it in a 5-10 minute span. But just what are we doing with technology? Well, we started with the overhead projector, and then in 2004, 2005, we were presented with what's called Interite technology with some of those CPS clickers that students could use. And the CPS clickers weren't the hottest thing for us, you know, it's all multiple choice, but we were given these Interite boards, which the old school ones were blue, and this is a newer version of it right here. And what we could do with it, we really didn't have much to do with it, because here it is, here's an Interite board, please use it. It wasn't until, as Mr. Dreher will say here, that they presented us with a nice little gift here.
We got projectors about a year later, or was it that year, and the computers were given to us, and we also got a copier scanner in the office that we could scan. Previously, all we had were books and worksheets, which is what most of you went through when you were to school, as a book or a worksheet, and that's what you did. That year, though, in 2007, 2008, we ended up with a scanner where we could put our worksheets on there, and we could have digital copies of that because we didn't have the online textbooks that we do now. And that allowed us to get everything digital on PDF or in Word and put that, so we could kind of start using everything together, and it allowed us to scan our papers and all that stuff on, so we could have it and use it with the Interite program.
So having access to the same worksheets that the kids had on paper, but digitally, we could present them in a manner with this Interite technology. As you can see, I can write whatever I want on here. If we had our problems projected, I could write on there, and the kids could, like the amount that the students could see compared to that old projector was tenfold. It's just like, oh, I can see that so much better, Mr. Bonnesil. They also then allowed us to use the graphing calculator, like since we could project it, which pulls in my way here, sorry. But our graphing calculator, which is right here. So what we used to have to do was just kind of verbally tell the student what to hit on the calculator. They couldn't see what you were doing. Now they could actually see how to punch things in with this calculator being projected. Then, once we got that scanner, we could really learn how to make presentations better. And what we actually did was we figured out that we could record ourselves while we were making the presentations, being that we could put all of these videos for students who are absent online. I kind of had the idea, is like, man, if our students at this school can create a website and put things up, then I sure as heck can do the same thing. So I asked Karina Bean if she could show me, how do our kids do this, which she was the web team director back in the time. How do our kids put the videos and stuff online? Please show me what to do. And thanks to our tech department and Karina Bean's help, we were able to, in the next couple of years, record every lesson for our classes, put it online, so when a student is absent, instead of them having to come in the mornings or after school or during seminar, they could just watch the video on their own free time. And with athletics in this district, as far as we have to travel and how often students are gone, I mean, that's been the saving grace technology-wise. Is we started that in about 2009 to where all the videos were online. And this is like what it looks like on the Hayes High website, where you just click on your class and it'll take you to that, and every video is available for most courses, not necessarily every course, but for most courses. Advanced Algebra 1, Advanced Algebra 2, Advanced Geometry, and College Algebra, every lesson is online for those particular courses. And when it comes to the other classes, some are, some aren't. It just depends on who teaches that course. Then, what we do now.
With the recent addition to Canvas, we are able to, pretty much takes care of everything that we did prior to posting, trying to get lessons on website, or whatever it was, all the videos that we have, all the documents that we have are also posted on the website, but now Canvas just takes care of everything at once. So you can post assignments on there. It's nice that it has a calendar for kids to keep track of everything, not just my course, but every course that they have at high school, and I know with my 5th grader, 6th grader, I use that too. So you guys, parents can check that and see what the lesson is for that day. We are also, one of the big things that combined everything, I talk about combining everything, culmination of everything together, was we have Canvas now. We have the Surface 3s, which are awesome in class now, because with math, we were pretty against technology for a while, saying, well, you can't do math on a computer. You can't do it. And with the Surface Pros now and the fine tip stylus, kids can write over those documents very, very easy, just like they would with paper and pencil. As you can see right here in one of those pictures, this is actually an assignment taken, we won't grade it here, but it's an assignment, it is correct, it's taken from one of Mr. Fonis's students' assignments, where they did that on a computer, and the assignment was there for them. So maybe they weren't in class that day, they could go watch the video, they could complete the homework on OneNote program that we've had for some time, but until we got the Surfaces, we weren't really able to use that with math, because if you've ever typed math problems out, it's not the easiest thing to do, but the kids can really take advantage of those Surfaces now with Canvas.
So the moral of this story is we are still moving forward. We are learning on the fly with Canvas and with OneNote, and because of your guys' support in providing us technology, and the fine tip stylus allows math to be done on a computer. Like, if it was an iPad or just a regular old laptop, we still would have to be pencil and paper. But with the fine tip stylus and the support of the school board and all y'all backing us with technology, we can go with a much paper-aware. We can't get rid of paper completely, but we can be very paper-aware, and of my estimations, we'll reduce our paper usage by well over 40% in the math department from what we did last year. So we just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you and show you what's going on. Do you guys have any questions or anything?
What's been the response from the kids?
At first,
because, personally, I would have been struggling a little bit.
Kids love the videos. That's been something that's been there for a long time. And at first, with technology or any kind of change, it's hesitant. Even all of us, it's like, if we're going to do a math assignment, I want it on pencil and paper. But if you just coach them through it and say, hang in there, we're going to be all right, and then we've worked through the issues, which there are issues, a little bit of technology. Batteries die, stylus pens, tips fall out and stuff like that. I can show you, we also wanted to show you our notebook, but we started in September-ish, maybe early October, and now you don't even hear kids complain about it anymore. It was about 3 weeks of complaints, and then they figured it out. They're smart, they handle technology very, very well. So, sorry, what we wanted to show you was what our notebook kind of looks like. What we do as teachers is we set up this OneNote notebook for them with all of the problems. We can either snip them from a PDF worksheet that we've had from the past, or we can snip them from their online textbook, where they don't even need the online textbook anymore. And it allows us to space them farther apart so they have more room to do the problem, as opposed to on a worksheet where you're trying to scrunch things together to save a little bit of paper. So what we do is we put this as the entire chapter, like this is chapter 8 for advanced geometry, as a little file on Canvas, and they download it like on the test day so they're ready for the next chapter, and then they have their entire assignments for the entire chapter right here. If they're absent, they know what's coming next, they know which video. By the way, email, I mean, we've been doing this since 2004, but the fact that students have an email address and have a computer gives that communication for when students are gone. I mean, that's one of the number one things that gets overlooked because it's so common in our day is email, but the fact that students have that and the communication, it teaches them to be responsible for themselves when they are absent, you know, and that's our number one job at the high school is to teach them some responsibility. It's like, what do you do when you're gone, you know, because you're going to miss days at work in the future. You got to communicate with your bosses, you know, and we're their bosses, you know.
I'd like to applaud you guys just for not accepting the status quo. I mean, very easily could have just said, hey, we need to use paper and pen and done the other stuff, but you took this further and actually you took hold of the technology and actually used it like we were hoping it really would be used.
Right.
And I think that's awesome to see that the kids have actually really adopted it and you guys have been able to do something with it. I think that's great.
Well, thank you. And it is interesting, you know, like when I went with Mr. Straub and all these committees to go tour other schools when we were trying to choose a device and to see some of their math classrooms and how prehistoric they are compared to ours. It's just amazing. It's like how far we've come technologically of what we can do versus other schools. We thank you guys for all your support in that issue.
Awesome.
And it's, with the integration of this digital learning plan, which, you know, was a big project, thank you very much, especially Shannon down there. But it's here in this presentation in combination with a few others that have been here before us. This is what we want to support. Now, this is why we want it in your guys' hands. So you're thanking us for the ability to put it into the schools. Thank you for following through with what's been asked, and thank you for the positive feedback. Now, my final question would be, you explained very well on the benefit to the student and the teaching environment. How about for you personally?
Videos is the number one because it saves us time. Now that the math staff and all staff has been a little reduced from where it was in the past, we take on more preps, and right now I currently have 4 preps. And with students being gone for activities and sickness and et cetera, when students miss class, the way it used to be before the videos is, please come in 7 o'clock in the morning and I'll show you what we did last time. Well, if you missed Algebra 1 and somebody missed Geometry and somebody missed Algebra 2 and somebody missed College Algebra, there's not enough before schools to get that made up in the time for the next class period. So as a teacher, the online videos means I don't have to spend all this time catching kids up. They can do that on their own time. And I mean, homework-wise, the speed grader app, you know, that's pretty slick. You know, we're getting used to that, but when students turn in their homework and we can just grade it and then say, oh, nice, this is the grade, and it goes directly into Power School, it's a time saver, you know, it saves a lot of time. I mean, it takes a little while to get used to, just like everything, but it's pretty nifty, you know. It's like very, very satisfied with what we have.
Very good.
And there's still more to learn, you know. I mean, there's a lot of people to thank. Marie Henderson is one for sure that comes and answers all our questions about Canvas and some of this stuff, and many other people. I mean, it's a group effort. It's not like this is just Hayes High math talking. We as a building try to help each other out as much as possible. So
just a question, where are you headed next? This is a great place, but it looks like you've got more plans coming.
Well, we have to see. You know, I don't know to answer that honestly. I would love it if there was no problems with the technology, and if there was enough power, you know. I mean, one of the big things is power outlets in the room. When the computers get older, the battery life dies, and the cords are only this long in the first place, and you get safety hazards in your classroom, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if the technology would cooperate, we could become very, very close to paperless if it would cooperate. But we're figuring that out, and by the time we get it figured out, then there'll be a new adoption, so we got to figure that out all over again. So hopefully we get closer and closer and closer to that. And then with the Microsoft Store, you know, we haven't even explored that yet, of what kind of apps are available for us to even explore. It's just we're trying to learn on the fly, and I guess that would be another thing, is what kind of apps are available through Microsoft Store compared to the Apple Store, you know, to help with math. You know.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.
Have anything else, Dean, for other organizations?
No.
Next item on the agenda is school spotlights.
A few things here I want to bring to your attention. First is fifth grader at O'Laughlin Elementary was the Ellis County Spelling Bee champion, Blake Buckles. We need to congratulate him, and real proud that he won that, and will continue here. And then we had several students sign collegiate athletic intent letters. Maddox winner, Fort Hays State in football, Brandon Delzite, Fort Hays State in football, and Denton Rathke Tabor in track. So real proud of those people as well, those students as well. And Lee Keffer was honored as the hometown hero from Covenant Builders this past month, and was honored at Fort Hays State game the other night, and wanted to congratulate him as well. And the last one here is was kind of a neat thing for the kids, but we had a special visitor at O'Laughlin Elementary, and this was the nephew of Catherine O'Laughlin McCarthy, had stopped in and visited the class, and John O'Laughlin was the gentleman's name, and they got to see the namesake of the school's relative, so very neat. That's all I have for spotlights.
Perfect. Next item is the report of the superintendent.
Just have a few things here. Shanna has scheduled and has the in-service and training for our ELA Readers Workshop training going on. Teachers are coming in, full schedule here from now till the end of the year. Been very well accepted and going well there. We also have, obviously, the last few meetings, we've had kids kind of in and out working on the school play. That is, you can't take it with you, and that'll be March 10th, 11th, and 12th. And tickets, I don't know when they go on sale for sure, but they will be on sale out at the Hays High School office. And also, it'll be under the consent agenda, but I wanted to thank each and every one of you and previous board members. My letter of resignation and retirement will be approved tonight, and can't thank you guys enough for the opportunity you had working in Hays. Absolutely love it. Very, very tough decision to make that transition to Missouri. I need to watch what I say here. I don't have a Missouri rock in front of my house, but I may have to get one. I don't know. But again, I want to thank every one of you. It was a great opportunity. Absolutely love it. I've said this before. It's the best job I've ever had, and I honestly mean that. It's just a great place to work. But opportunities come up that you can't turn down, and this is one of them. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Yes, Dean, you will be missed, and I know we've got you for a couple more months, so,
Yeah.
but thank you for all your service.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Dedication.
it. It's been a pleasure.
Well, now he keeps talking about that Missouri rock. I don't know.
I don't think I could buy one. I can't do it.
Let's see here. Next item on the agenda is the financial report. Tracy?
There aren't any new exceptions this month. There's actually fewer exceptions this month than there were last, so those are just recurring ones that are continuing on through the year. We did add 2 new locations to the budget. The Early Childhood Block Grant, they received their 3 grants that started January 1st. So we added location 56 and 57, which are labeled the ECBG Staff Development and ECBG Quality Award. All 3 of the grants have to be specifically held out to prove what they've been expended on. So they're all still under Fund 91, which is the Early Childhood Block Grant, but we added these additional 2 locations so that we could properly track those expenses. So these 3 grants did increase the total budget by over $713,000. So if you look from month to month, you'll see that increase in the overall budget. That's just because those grants started January 1st. One is an 18-month award, so it will actually go through all of next fiscal year. I think one is a 12-month award, and then the other one is unlimited just until the funds are expended. So we'll keep those
those funds going on, those locations going on for quite some time. We did receive the big tax payment last month in January in capital outlay, so you'll notice our revenue jumped dramatically for last month, and so we're getting closer to our expectations. We'll still have more payments throughout the year, but that was kind of the one that we were waiting on, that we knew the January payment would be so large. Were there any questions on the financial statement this month? As you probably all heard, the Supreme Court did come down with their decision. As far as Hayes goes, it really won't affect us because we don't receive any capital outlay state aid and very little supplemental or LOB state aid. So I've been talking to a couple legislators and trying to get a feel of what's going to happen. Heard lots of different rumors and lots of different ideas on what they might do with the new finance formula, or go back to the existing, or stay with the block grant, whatever they end up doing and changing their funding. But it doesn't look like, I'm not hearing anything that we're going to have any cuts this year, unless there just be a dramatic overall allocation they have to do, but mainly for next year, and we'll hear more details over the next couple months on that.
Big question mark, unfortunately. You always hope to have some idea, and now it's even a bigger question mark than what it was, what to expect till the end of this year and then going into next year.
I saw where they looked at those projected cuts and what it would do. Was it 2 million to like Blue Valley School District, a little over $1 million to Shawnee? Do we have any idea if they stayed on course with that, what kind of effect we would see?
If it's all, I mean, state aid is the big issue. And we don't receive much state aid at all. We do a little bit in LOB, local option budget. And anything there, it affects our mill levy. It really, our budget is set for X number of dollars in the local option budget. So Josh, I really don't know. We get nothing for bond and interest. We get nothing for capital outlay. If they cut the base state aid per pupil, which obviously this year they don't have it, but that's what they're talking about, it's, I don't know. I don't have a projection. You don't. I mean, we've had that conversation and we don't know.
Gotcha.
We'll keep you updated as we hear more.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Tracy on the financial report? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the board work session minutes for February 1st, 2016, the board meeting minutes for January 18th, 2016, financial report to include the clerk's report, investment report, and petty cash report, approval of bills in the amount of $2,870,065.73, and personnel transactions.
Under personnel transactions, I just want to draw your attention to 2 retirements. Deborah Ross is the administrative assistant secretary at Lincoln, has been there for, gosh, help me, a long time. I don't know the exact number of years, but just going to be missed immensely, but she's going to retire. And then we also have Jolene Winholt, special ed teacher at Hayes High, has turned in her retirement notice too. So 2 good people that we're going to miss.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated by the board president.
Second.
Been moved by Board Member Waddell and seconded by Board Member Rankin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to new business, the Hayes Recreation Commission resolution to approve a lease agreement. And do we have, do we need to have?
If anybody has questions, I think for Roger, I think he went over it very well at the other session, and pretty routine that they need to pass this resolution to, or we need to pass the resolution for them to continue on, so.
And there is, I guess, to also make sure everybody's aware, there is no cost to the district in this. No. It's basically just a pass-through because of the way Hayes Rec is actually classified with that, so.
I would make a motion to approve the lease agreement
Okay, been moved by Board Member Waddell. Seconded by Board Member Lang. Open it up for discussion. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thanks, Roger.
Thank you. And Sarah, did you want Roger to sign that before he left or not?
We don't have to have the one signed.
Oh, okay,
if
never
it
mind.
takes us-
Sorry. I thought I'd save you a trip.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the driver's education fees. I don't know that there were any other. And that was basically recommending the decrease of $50 for in-district students for driver education, would bring the fee down to $250. Out-of-district students would be charged the full $300 fee. And administration is recommending the adjustments due to the decrease in fuel costs.
And it'll be held at Hayes High. Yes.
I make a motion to approve the recommended driver's education fees for the 2016-2017 school year.
Been moved by Board Member Rankin.
I'll second.
Seconded by Board Member Adams. Open it up for discussion. Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the bidding process policy revisions. And I believe those were basically discussed also in the work session for advertisement of the bids, how they're going out, for the public bid advertisement websites and everything else, and also posting that on the district website when bid packets are sent to specific vendors.
And the part that's in red here was actually added to, or will be added to, board policy DJED, and that was the conversation we had last time about advertising for bids.
Entertain a motion.
I'll move that we vote on the bidding process policy and revision.
Okay. And moved by Board Member Adams.
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Waddell. We'll open it up for discussion.
Does our current policy have anything as far as like timetable for when this has to be advertised and for how long, and how much notice has to be given?
That's a good question. I don't believe it does.
I mean, that would be something worth considering amending this because you just want it out there for a day, or do you want it out there for, adequate amount of time?
Well, I would assume, Dean, there usually is, having said that, aren't there usually timetables set as far as when it's basically required to be turned back in?
It's usually more than adequate time. I mean, we ran into the issue this last time where we didn't accept a bid and we're in such a tight time constraint, but typically it's more than enough time, and it's laid out in the RFP about when bids are due and give them plenty of time. It's always taken into consideration the time it would take for somebody to prepare a bid.
Does that answer your question, Randy? Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda will be the physical education credit requirement proposal from Hayes High. And I believe that was basically reducing the PE credit amount needed for graduation from 2 credits to 1. The change would allow students to take more rigorous classes and have the option to take courses in their desired fields of focus. I believe they have the credit proposal listed up on the deal if anybody has any questions on that.
I make a motion to approve the reduction of 1 PE credit from graduation requirements for Hayes High.
Been moved by Board Member Rankin.
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Lang. Open it up for discussion.
It would reduce the 1 PE credit and add that to the elective credits. It would still be 25 credits to graduate from Hayes High.
And Marty, I think he was out there. Is that from the state level? It's basically just 1 that's technically required for that anyway, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the board term changes due to the past legislation. I believe that is just referring to the dates as far as for the primary and general elections for both the board members that took office 2.5 years ago, as well as those of you that just took office here in June, is that correct? Or July? And that's basically just moving those dates to the, basically changed from spring of odd number years to the Tuesday following the first Monday in November of odd number years. I'd entertain a motion on that.
So moved.
Been moved by Board Member Lang,
I'll second the motion.
seconded by Board Member Adams. Open it up for discussion. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the bond issue. Dean, you want me to turn that over to you as far as...
Yes, what we want to have discussion here on just where we are. I know Zach is here if you want to come up and maybe review a few of these things. We do have our volunteer committees started. Sarah has sent out, I don't know what software she's using, but request to try to come up with a date. And I know we'll have 3 board members that, when they can, attend as many of those as they can and be the mouthpiece back to the rest of the board. Zach, you might review kind of where we are, I guess, and this is timeline from where we...
So there's another one that's for June, actually, if you want to, that one, yeah, that's the correct one.
And Zach, can you also somewhat share, I know we had the meeting up here the other night, which you were at, kind of some of the stuff we talked at the end as far as that you kind of went over, as well as in the email you sent to us, just kind of the timeframes and how some of this works with everything.
Yeah, definitely. Are you ready for me to do that? Okay. I think first off, bond issues come in really all shapes and sizes, and that the campaigns for those and the information campaigns, really, there's a number of different paths to get to the end point of holding an election. And that there's also no perfect time necessarily of a year to have that. Every time you select has pros and cons. Based on what's going on within the district, what's going on in the community, what's going on at national level. There's never good necessarily perfect times for that, but I think in going back to the recommendation of this spring and carrying into June as a target election date, that there's a lot of benefits to that, in that you're capturing people while they're still at school, that you're currently doing town hall meetings and getting information out about what the bond issue, what aspects the bond issue is going to cover, and what why and the purpose of the bond issue, and that when people are in school, you can specifically point to certain instances at each of the buildings, and people are in school and they're involved with those on a daily basis. So you're not pulling people out of what their other routines, such as the summer or other times of the year, but they're in tune to what's going on at the school and why you're proposing to do the bond issue. Another point that I'll make, that really the district has done a good job about about how this bond issue was founded, and where that it started off back in, I think, 2011 or 2012, when they did the Docking Institute Planning Initiative that identified what the 5-year plan for the district was, and they knew that they had some facility issues that they needed to address, and that planning study in 2011 surveyed residents in the district, surveyed staff and teachers to start to develop what should this this 5-year plan be focused on. And then the top two were to improve the facilities and look at, address and adjust class sizes as needed, because they started to see that class sizes were getting to be larger than what the ideal number was to be. So that's kind of where you started with the whole bond issue process. Through that process, it also talked about doing an internal needs assessment within staff within the district, and then also hiring a consultant, and you hired HTK to do an external, or to do a look from a third party as to understand, meet with staff and determine what your needs were. And as many of you know, that process has carried on for a number of years, and we've really looked at everything from just what do we need to do to fix just what's broken right now, to some of the proposals looked at, do we close schools, do we build brand new schools, and we really, so you really kind of looked at the whole gamut of ranges of what the bond issue could focus on when you go back to those two main points of improving facilities and addressing class sizes. And each time those options and those concepts have come out, you've kind of vetted those with people in the community, especially when you talked about closing schools and consolidating schools. You went back to the community and said that, no, we've got a passion for our neighborhood schools. We've got schools all around the community that are set in those neighborhoods, and we have a commitment to maintaining those, adding the necessary facilities that are needed there, whether they're safety related, whether they're curriculum based, or whether they're maintenance based, but adding to and improving those facilities going forward. So that's kind of what the picture of the bond issue is that we're maintaining our existing schools and providing for the next 20 to 30 years for those. So kind of fast forward to where we're at today and tonight, talking about the lead up to a bond issue. What I've got on the screen here is a calendar similar to what you've been seeing. This is initially produced by Dustin from Piper Jaffray, but I started to add in, it had a lot of the basic component, or the sort of, I'll call them official components that you needed to do to run the bond issue, but I've gone in and added additional things that are part of the information campaign and some of the support initiatives that go into the process of educating the community about the bond issue and then ultimately running the bond election. And I've highlighted those in green are what I call milestone actions, and those talk about passing the resolutions to move forward with a bond issue, the State Board of Education approval, and then ultimately a bond issue. In addition to those, what Dean and a number of board members have been doing are the speaking engagements and the town hall meetings, getting out in the community and at the schools, talking about what the specific components that the bond issue is going to address for each of the schools there, but then also at community organizations, community groups, and just spreading the word and getting information out and being a venue for people to ask questions, because a lot of people haven't been as in tune with this as you guys have for the last 4 or 5 years, and so some of it is new to them, some of it they've heard rumblings about that it's been in process, but it's really reintroducing. There is a process to reintroduce what the last 4 years' work has been to get to the point you're at now, and so that's really what's happening now. Really, in the items that are in yellow there at the town hall meetings, the volunteer, gathering volunteers together and mobilizing them to champion aspects of the bond issue, so that because there's people there's things that can help alleviate your guys' efforts, but then also the efforts of Dean and Sarah, and that going forward, that you can get a volunteer base that helps push some of the, or that helps champion some of the information and conversations that they have with the community. And then in blue, just some support initiatives, and those don't necessarily have specific dates to them, but they're aspect like launching a website, information website on the district's website. Later on, developing a social media campaign, whether it's through Facebook or a Twitter page, and just other avenues, lining up speaking, continuing to line up speaking engagements, and making those connections with people in the community that are supportive of the bond issue. Lastly, on this schedule, I've also there's been the notion of can we run a sales tax with this or not, and a meeting with the city that they requested a petition to move forward with that. And so those are the items that are in gray and how they would lay out in this schedule. It's going back to, I know there was the sales tax component within a bond issue is new for me as well, so I'm kind of feeling it, learning how that fits into it as well, and that it comes down to, there was some initial pushes to running the sales tax and the bond issue on the same ballot, that to do that, because it's a citywide election that would require it to be either part of a general election or an already scheduled city election. And so you have the ability to separate the two. You can run the bond issue and then choose to pick up the sales tax. The thought on the sales tax would be that you were picking up the current county half-cent sales tax that sunsets in July of 18, I think, and that you would be able to pick that up, and so that when it sunset for another, and add to it for another 10 years to provide funds to help support the bond issue. And so that could be something that's, whether you choose to do that. I know there's a petition process right now to collect signatures to go back to the city commission to put it on a ballot. If you choose to go forward with that now, or if you choose to go forward with that later, the schedule that I've got up here shows what that those items really, if you chose not to go through that, those items could drop off the schedule, and that the June election is still a possibility to run for the bond issue, looking at a mail-in, a special election mail-in ballot. That's our recommendation that we see most success with, is the special elections, the mail-in ballots that happen during the school year. Let me see if there's, also another, just on that mail-in ballot, I had on the way up, I had some conversations with one of the Shawnee County elections commissioners, just because I know him, and I thought I'd float the question out about the time frame when the ballots are due, and from when the ballots are mailed out, and there's they're mailed out 20 days before the election is due, is when the ballots go out, and that corresponds with a 21-day cutoff for registering for that election. So and he gave me the state statutes for the mail-in ballots that kind of spell out some of those items. I think to maybe answer some of the questions as to what's next, I think a critical component, and it's the one that's listed right there in green on the March 21st, is the next major step for the board to take in moving forward with the bond issue is that resolution that identifies the election date, the plan of finance, and the election and the type of election. Once that's put in place, then it makes sense to then roll out because then you'll have finalized numbers on from the financial company in terms of what that impact looks like on a property tax. And then you can kind of complete the information packet for the bond issue. It's not only the scope, but then you also have the cost components as well. So I can pause right there, and if you have any questions of what I've said so far, or...
I think what, on the sales tax piece, obviously, we're starting to gather signatures now, and we had talked about the 19th, those being turned in. We could stretch that out a few more days, but it's imperative, I think, that we either we have the 1,500, 1,200, whatever we determine by that date, or I think we just wait and not try to include that, so.
I would, in my opinion anyway, I would say we continue on with trying to collect the signatures as we have, and if we get them by that date, great. And if not, then we look at, we continue moving on, and if not, we look at, whether or not we need to add that to, as you said, like another election or something like that, in my opinion.
My understanding is you can do that, you can continue that petition for the sales tax, and you can separate the two, and that really could be, I think it's advantageous to get it before that current tax sunsets, but you can do that anytime between now and then.
One of the issues we have with that is the language of the petition is that they be held at the same time.
Okay, specifically in the petition.
Specifically in the petition. So
it
if
would
a
be,
decision was made to run the sales tax election at a different date, it would be my opinion that the petitions that we have now would be invalid. And we'd have to start that process all over.
I guess just talking about this, the thing I've been concerned about from our side is that I'm wondering if this is confounding people hearing all the things about a sales petition. Our real issue is a bond issue.
Right.
Sales petition is what we felt was necessary to help give relief to property owners. But I'm wondering if the public has gotten, well, what's this petition issue? And again, if maybe it is something we want to think about. If we get the signatures, great. If we don't, it's the bond issue we care about.
Right.
This is great, but it's the bond issue.
I think that we continue forward and we reassess on that date.
Especially since now knowing it.
But we'd still
We have a lot of momentum, we have a lot of activities planned.
regardless, we move forward though.
We move forward and we reassess. Let's not lose momentum at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think even after the last meeting, towards the end, once you got the people that were there to volunteer and signed up, and really talking through with them about what do they, what skills do they bring to this, and why do they want to volunteer, and where do they fit into, or where do they fit into this kind of 90-day process. And I think that's key also. It's not necessarily it's not expected for them to know everything that they need to know from day one, because there's a time frame where they are brought up to speed and educated on what the bond issue encompasses, and the information kind of evolves and ramps up as you get closer to the election date. But I think it's critical to, I mean, you're asking a pretty good commitment for those volunteers, and that you really want them to committed, but you also knowing that people's time is valuable, that they can probably only commit so much time to it, and and that's again why the 90-day process, it fits with the kind of the scheduled official things that need to happen, but it's also a manageable time frame for somebody that's volunteering, that they can say that, yes, I can commit to serving for the next 90 days to help do this bond issue, to get information out about the bond issue.
I mean, as we've known, the petition has complicated and been a challenge for us. And as the committees met initially And to get started, there was some confusion, and I think that a lot of this information probably would have been very helpful had we just started with some of this. I myself had not seen the Docking Institute information. I kind of came in with the facility needs piece, so that was interesting to me to hear that this started 2 years prior to that. So I think that we need to make sure that we have those materials and we're sharing that with all of those volunteers so that they all have that information at least available to them if they choose to read it all. And also, you know, your response to a lot of the discussion that took place that night, I think that we also need to get that to the volunteers because we have a great group started, and I know that more will be joining. But again, there's been a lot of focus this last week on the petition, and it's a distraction from kind of getting started with the bond piece of it. And I think you're right that it's a little bit confusing to the public because they haven't had a lot of the information about the bond itself. And we're trying to touch on just one piece of it with the petition and give them just enough to understand that piece of it. And so that has confused things a little bit.
And the petition is, agree that the petition, having the petition in there is trying to explain it when we all may not totally understand how it fits in is even more problematic. So I see how the confusion arose with that. And I think when part of the understanding of how we got to what the scope of the bond issue is reviewing and emphasizing that process that you guys have gone through, and that it really started from a community survey of constituents and district staff to determine what your needs are, and through that process there were needs and wants were put out there, and it really drilled down to, okay, this is what we believe that the needs are to continue to provide quality education in the district. So I don't know if Dean shared it with you yet, but I did create kind of a fact sheet. It read more like a narrative. So there was a bulleted one, but then there was a one-page that read kind of like a narrative that talked about the process, talked about the components that you're addressing in the bond issue, being safety and security, the deferred maintenance, and the curriculum space needs as kind of the overarching, and then what does it mean for safety and security, what does it mean for deferred maintenance, and what does it mean for curriculum space needs. And so and then you go into, then for additional information, see those graphics that kind of show the bulleted points and how those components conceptually lay out at each of the buildings. But that was really, I went at it at a couple different angles, and kind of, at least my first draft was this narrative that was sort of your elevator speech on what the bond issue, where the bond issue came from, and what we're trying to accomplish with it.
And is that ready to go for tomorrow night? I mean, the next town hall meeting? Is that something we can?
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, I wanted to, yeah, it's that one. I wanted to get it out to those volunteers because they really needs their input, because they're the ones that are going to champion this going forward. I mean, we're here to support that, but they're the ones, so that if there's some wording either that they don't understand or that would be worded differently, I think it's important to get that input, because they're the ones that it's really going to be their document to move forward with and run with. So I think if they haven't seen it, I think it'd be beneficial, at least to the main committee chairs that were in that meeting, that they have a chance to review it and pick it apart, and we can revise it as necessary.
I think the good thing is it seems to hit kind of the who, what, when, where, how, and why, as far as, and then also taking it a step further, how it affects, how does it affect me?
Yeah.
If I'm sitting out there in the audience. So I think that's big as far as the way you've gotten at it lately.
Yeah. And so the only thing that's probably not figured out on that is the cost and the time frame piece to it. We know what the scope is, but the cost, until the resolution and the plan of finance, whether you choose to do it taking out sales tax aside, but just looking at it strictly through a property tax is your plan for finance, whether it's 20 years, 25, 30 years, those key components, that's kind of the last piece that goes into painting the whole picture of what the bond issue looks like. And then I guess the last component is, when is the election, when am I going to get my ballot, and when does it have to be in by? And then those milestones of getting the ballots in the mail correspond with sending an additional either backpack stuffer or a newsletter that goes out to parents in the district that says, hey, expect your ballots in the next day or two. We know if you're looking at June election, we know your school's getting ready to be out of session, you're going to be on the summer stuff, but as soon as you get your ballot, make your choice on how you want to vote and return it so that it doesn't get lost heading off for vacation or whatnot.
In looking at the information after the fact, after Wednesday night's volunteer meeting, the materials that you had presented to us in that book previously, again, and you kind of touched on this tonight, you really don't want to overload people, and so you shoot for all of that, kind of hitting them those 5 weeks before the election.
Yes.
Exactly those 5 weeks. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but we were on schedule for all of that, with the exception slightly of the petition piece.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, this schedule, the June 7th, I think it is the end date on it, says that you do have, because we actually did another schedule that says, what if you did it in May, still in May, and so it's feasible to do it in May. It would require you to have a special board meeting to pass Dustin said a draft resolution has been made, but it will need to be tweaked before it's finalized. So this schedule says that at your next work session, you would look at that resolution and prepare the language for that draft resolution, so that then the March board meeting, you could make approval of that and move forward with those items. And then that starts that process rolling with the state process and kind of that official process. But then it also answers that last piece that I think you really need to put a full information package out there about the scope, how does it impact me, and when do I vote. And then, I mean, going back to Sarah, the big book, there is a lot of information in that, and we see it happen all different ways at every school. And so it's really looking at if there is an advocacy committee out there that runs with things, what's their tasks look like, or is it strictly an information campaign that really just is the district and the volunteers for the district going out and saying and educating the community and informing the community and being there to answer questions in the community. So it's taking those pieces and saying, yes, we can do this, or no, I don't think you don't have to do everything in that book to have a successful bond issue.
Anybody have any questions for Zach?
So I think take a look at that schedule, and then I just sent that before I left town tonight, so you may or may not have that yet, but take a look at that schedule and either ask questions or make comments on it, but then also that fact sheet that I think it's important to get that to the volunteers and you guys, and I think you have it in a Word doc format, so you can either make comments directly in it or just write on it and scan it and send it to us.
Perfect.
So I assume if we don't have it already, we'll have those in our email before too long.
Yeah, I don't know that it's critical. I think it covers a lot of what Dean says or what the presenter says in the presentation, but it's in kind of, if you don't want to listen to the presentation, here's something
away
that's,
with it.
hopefully that's easy to digest and understand. And if you have more questions, you can go to the website, you can go to the town hall meetings, you can email Dean or Sarah, or really any of you guys on that. So I think we're here to support you guys for what you need. When it comes down to it, it's people in the community that will champion it and move forward with it, but we're here to provide any kind of information or materials that they need to effectively get the information out.
Perfect. To add to that, we do have it was up on the board, but we do have a town hall meeting tomorrow at Lincoln at 6 o'clock. So I encourage any of you, which we should hopefully have some more of this information and all that there as well, so.
And I went through, and Sarah and I did Next Tech. It won't be aired till sometime in March, but we did go down to Rotary and have, typically those, you usually have 20 to 30 minutes, and kind of did a cheat sheet, used the same PowerPoint, pulled up strategic slides that really focused on the process and then the needs. And the big three areas is what I've been calling them now, but that's safety and security, deferred maintenance, and educational spaces. So really focusing on that. We had a good presentation, I think, and it was a lot shorter for that type of setting. Good input again. So we are still gathering input and keep telling people, gosh, ask us every question you can think of, and we keep adding to the frequently asked questions list and have access to that. So.
And I think Sarah has a list.
Yeah, so regarding the petition gathering, we want to make sure that everyone's aware of where you can go to sign the petition. So they continue to be available in all of the schools, in the offices? Okay.
Early Childhood Connections also has some there, and then we have them here at the board office.
And then they can come find you. And then I think this week there'll be a couple of activities going on in the school district where they will be available. I believe the Hayes High basketball games Tuesday night and Friday night.
And next Monday at our
And parent meeting, okay, so next Monday. And then I believe the middle school, I think we have a couple basketball games, one out at the recreation center and then one at the middle school where there will be hopefully a table. And then I believe there's a community wrestling meet this weekend. And there may be others, I think, that we will continue to post to the website, Sarah, if we have locations where people can go. We would like to encourage everyone, if you haven't at this time and you are willing, please get in so we know kind of where we are with that, as well as if anybody's willing to collect signatures. We could use more help on that front as well. The committees are coming together as of last week, but again, it's the petition kind of became more of the first focus, and we don't quite have as many people in place that the bond campaign will need right now for the petition process. So.
And I would like to reiterate that you have to be a registered voter that lives in the city limits of Hayes in order to be able to sign that. We thank you if you would like to, and that doesn't apply to you, then you would not be able to sign the petition.
And I guess one other thing, the website she was referring to is up and operational. It's fundourfuturefirst.com.
And you can get that by going to USD 489.com.
Yeah, there's a link on there. Yes.
You can do that.
It's an exciting time. It is. I mean, there's a lot of engaged, passionate people, parents, and community members that are getting involved.
There are, and we want to thank every one of them that has already started and done a lot of work already. And I know Gary's here.
Yes, I think Gary is here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Gary, yeah, I think we have Gary Brinker with the Docking Institute to go over some information on surveys as well.
Okay, I have a PowerPoint for you. There it is. Okay, I'm Gary Brinker, Director of the Docking Institute, and I'm here to give you a summary of a research method we developed a couple of years ago, school bond surveys. And just to summarize why you would want to conduct a school bond survey, just to sort of, a general reason is to maximize the improvement needs that are met while being confident that you're going to float a bond that will pass. Specifically, what we'll do, it will allow you to learn which improvement projects the public supports and which ones they oppose. You can also learn which bond scenarios will pass, likely pass, and which ones will not. And maybe more important, because this is what I'm hearing from everybody that you need, it is an excellent tool to inform the voters on what the board believes the district's needs are, why they feel they need those things, and what it will cost the taxpayer. The methodology is a postal survey. When we've done this before, we've mailed it to all registered voters in the district. They're mailed an envelope that contains a cover letter, questionnaire, and a business reply envelope. Of course, the typical cover letter explains the purpose of the study and a description of each improvement project. Well, actually, that's part of the questionnaire. And I'm going to show you examples of this in a second. So the procedures, the respondents read the cover letter, they fill out the questionnaire that basically tells their level of support or opposition for either the specific projects or a particular bond scenario. We get the surveys back, we enter them into a statistical database, analyze the data, and prepare a report. The cost depends, of course, on the size of the district. If you got a small district, you don't have nearly as much postage. I got the total number of registered voters from the county clerk, and to do this survey for USD 49 would cost $15,000. There's what the mailing envelope looks. Actually, I've got some examples of, we've done this 3 times, and I'm going to give you examples of the very first one we did and the very last one that we did. This is the first one we did for US 327 in, somebody help me, over by the wind turbines.
Montezuma?
Well, USD 327. You can see, you put the logo. This is basically to get them to open it up. Let them know that this is about schools, and it's sort of a teaser to get them to open up. We custom mail it to each registered voter. So if there's 3 registered voters in a household, they'll each get a survey. I know you can't read this, but it's kind of an example of what the cover letter is. Again, it basically describes the purpose of the survey, and what we would basically say is that your school board is preparing a school bond. They would like your input in preparing what they ask for, give us a good idea, because they don't want to basically float a bond election that's not going to pass. I mean, maybe not say that specifically, but that's the idea, is you get the public on board that we want your input on this. And this right away is getting people on board, because it's telling them that you're valuing their input. You're not just going to a few groups of people in the community and pulling together all the people that are for the bond. You're actually going to all the voters, because that ultimately is what's going to determine what the bond is. It's not going to be the few people that are really gung-ho on this. It's going to be all of the voters. So we got the cover letter. The next page, this will be on the back of this. This is a 2-page mailer. On the back of the cover letter, we may have to add more room for you, because you're a bigger district. We may need more space to describe the projects that are on your bond. But basically, you can see it in bold. It summarizes the improvement project, and then the paragraph that follows basically explains, here's why we need this, and this is what it's going to cost. This is how much of the total bond this project will cost. And then it goes to the questionnaire, and you can see this is sort of the top half, and you can see there's basically 2 phases to this, main phases. The first one is where we, per project, and you can see it's very easy for a person to rate that. They can flip back over and quickly read, okay, this is why they need that project, and basically it's a 11-point scale. With negative and positive numbers for them to indicate, how much do I support this improvement project and how much do I oppose it. And they do that for every project, or every specific project. And then this is the second big section, and this is where you present scenarios for them. If you wanted, you could just present the scenario you want, and they could get a measure on what percentage of the respondents would support or oppose, vote for or against that particular bond. You can see here, this district decided to present 3 scenarios. And maybe if you look at them, they've got this is what we would like ideally, and then another 2 alternatives are where they've shaved off things that they could maybe do without. So we get yes or no, up or down vote on any scenario. You wouldn't want to present too many of them, but you can present your scenario there and basically get an idea of whether that particular person would vote. This is kind of what one of the graphs on the report you get. This is, again, you can see where we have projects and made column graph to show you the relative percent that rated each one, gave each one a particular rating, and we've got them rank ordered, as you can see. We could rank order by support or opposition. You can see these are rank ordered by opposition. And one thing that I want you to notice is that, and the numbers in the brackets underneath, that's the mean rating. So you can see if it's a positive number, that means that more people have voted in favor of it than against it. If it's negative, more people have said they would oppose it than support it. And you can see the high vac on the left, the positive means, you've got the HVAC, rent replacing windows, adding classrooms, adding one shop, adding a science lab, adding a kitchen. Those are the positive, junior high classrooms. You can look when they start going negative, locker rooms, the AC in the gym. Of course, EES Blacktop, I think that's a parking lot, so that's repaving a parking lot. Tennis courts, enclosed gym, and look at the 2 that are the most unpopular, competition gym and a practice gym. This is why I worry about your bond, and why I feel like you definitely need to do one of these, because you've got a strong potential that those gyms that you have in your bond are going to cause it to fail.
With all due respect, sir, I don't think we need a lecture on what we should or shouldn't do. If we could just limit this to the presentation itself.
All right. This is where we did the bond election for USD 327. As you can see, this actually was done post. Maybe you can read the text there. This was USC 327's second effort to pass a bond, and it failed for the second time. So this is the second one. And so basically they came to us after this had failed twice, and we did the bond, and the graph that we show here is the bond that they tried to float on the second time. Our survey showed that 46.4% of our respondents said that they would vote against this bond, and you can see the election results. 47% said yes, 53% no. We hit it right on the nose. This is from our most recent bond election, and I really don't know what I'm supposed to say now. I'll just let you read it, and you can see which ones are.
I got some questions. What is your average participation rate?
27 to about 20, I would say 25 to 30%.
25 to 30%. And then after when are you suggesting that we perform this survey?
The survey takes 5 weeks to complete.
Okay, so towards the end of you would be fine to get it done if we choose to at the end of our education piece prior to the bond issue, bond election.
I can start at any time.
Well, wouldn't it make more sense to get the education provided prior to the survey? Wouldn't it be best to do as much public education as possible?
If I could have finished my presentation, I could have showed you that one of the things that the survey will tell you where you need to focus your campaign, because it will show you which projects are unpopular. And if you know which projects are unpopular, you'll know how to target your information campaign.
And I understand that, but prior to calling something unpopular, wouldn't you want to do the best education that you possibly could, and then determine what is still unpopular or what is moved?
If you've got the time, I suppose, that would be a good strategy.
But does the survey itself act as an information piece?
I'm sorry?
Is the survey itself an education piece?
I believe so.
That would be a nice, more of a finishing touch, rather than paying $15,000 to find out information prior to maximizing our educational effort. I would see it as more of a finishing touch, reaching to the people that may have not been, rather than going through all the education and putting the survey out prior to finalizing the education. That's my opinion on this.
It could be, but our experience in Ellis was that we did the survey, and they found out that some of the things were very unpopular, and they implemented an education program, but it really didn't go anywhere.
How many of these have you done in the last 2 years?
3 total.
3 total? Okay. So of those
How
3...
many surveys have we done?
Yeah, related to school bonds. Okay, in the last 2 years. Okay, and of those, these were done before or after a facility needs assessment that we went, of the like that we did?
I assume a needs assessment was done because that's the way you determine what you need for your bond, right?
Well, or was your survey in these districts the start of that?
No, this is the first research we've done with any of these school districts.
But I think the question is, yes, the districts, as far as we know, the districts did do some research ahead of time to know what things would cost, right?
Okay.
How much these,
well,
and then they came to us and did the survey, and then we provide the information to them.
Because it's my understanding that, this is how, it was a survey done for you guys that started this whole process for us 4 years ago. And I just looked at those results, and it looks very much like this. And then after that, the district undertook the facility needs study that went on for 2 years. So I think that the questions that we have discussed over this, when you have sent us emails regarding the survey, is that we feel like a lot of this has already been done in the case of our district. And so the value would be more of the informing piece. So the timing of that, it seems, would be better suited after some education has been done.
Could be. I think the only difference is that research we did before was not asking folks if they would actually support a bond. It
was included on that, actually. The information that I reviewed. Is that what we were given last week?
Yeah, it was
It was one of the questions. In fact, there were probably 1 or 2 questions.
11 or 12 study, I know.
Any other questions?
So if we're looking at, I guess the things I'm hearing and that are speaking to me are, education to the public, PR to the public, and then one of the big things we discussed there was gyms. And I can't think of the word the dean keeps calling them, but it's not a gym, it's a multi-purpose space. Is there something that this survey could help us with in those regards? And that's, because I think what some of these questions are kind of getting around is, we're not really looking to change the scope of the bond. We're heading in that direction. That's where we want to be. And I can tell you right now, I'll put myself out there, I don't want to cut the gyms because they are a multi-purpose space, and that's what they're designed for.
Well, you might not have to do that.
What I'm asking you is how does this survey help me convey that to the public? How does that help bring a more positive light to that? Because all
the survey can do, and you can call it whatever you want. You can call it a gym, you can call it a multi-use center, and you can describe it any way you want. I don't think you would want to deviate from, you don't want to try and make it look like you're misleading people, but that's how it educates people. It tells them, it explains each of the projects and explains why. You could customize this thing. We can put the link to your website in there. Another thing the survey could do would gauge support for a sales tax. And it might save you all the trouble of running a petition. If only 10% of the people say they would support a sales tax, it would save you from wasting all those resources trying to get a sales tax on the, if the survey showed it, there was virtually no chance it would pass.
I don't think it's wasting resources when you're trying hard to accomplish something that you feel strongly about. I don't like the term wasting resources. That's definitely not what this board is up here attempting to do at all.
Well, I'm trying to offer you a tool to make this more efficient. If you're not interested in that, well, I don't know. I've lost interest in doing it, frankly.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Nice attitude.
Wow.
Real impressive.
Okay, so I believe we talked about the town hall meetings as far as at Lincoln. At 6 o'clock, obviously, tomorrow, we should have a fair amount more information. I think Sarah will have a fair amount more as far as the HTK had and some of that as well. And then Dean, I think you said we also will have the bullet points and things like that he had, or the fact sheet, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So again, just a quick reminder of that publicly as far as that town hall meeting tomorrow, and I think Sarah went over the locations for the petitions.
And just a question, tomorrow's at 6?
6, I think.
Which is different than...
Yes, it's listed as 6.
Sarah, who do you have
It's
coming
different.
as board members? I apologize, my schedule's been all...
I will send that out. I have it upstairs in my book. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions right now on the bond stuff? Okay. We will move on to the next item, which is the Hayes Middle School HVAC financing bid. I think Board Member Lang is going to excuse herself from this discussion.
This is just the financing side of the HVAC system. We sent out the RFP to 9 financial institutions, and 6 responded. The lowest bid was Commerce Bank at a rate of 1.62%, so a total amount financed would be $1,202,939. We'd be making semi-annual payments of $150,367 over a 4-year term. Commerce Bank did have a $250 escrow fee that is included in the financing part of that $1.2 million. So we had estimated prior to sending out the RFP that our semi-annual payments would be $304,875, and the Commerce Bank annual payment would be $300,734. So around $4,000 less each semi-annual payment. All of the bids that we did receive are attached. Are there any questions on this?
And then, do you have that comparison to the capital outlay impact?
Yes, it is actually attached. It is attached to the next item, I believe. Look here. It's also attached on the financial report.
The capital outlay budget was?
Yes.
Do we make a motion?
That's what I was just going to say. If somebody wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to consider the HMS HVAC financing bid.
Second.
Okay, been moved by Board Member Adams and seconded by Board Member Waddell. Now we'll open it up for discussion.
I was going to think, kind of missed something there.
Yes, here we had it, this is the capital outlay budget attached to the financial report. We had it, planned on putting $200,000 down this year out of capital outlay, and then we'd estimated the payments at $304,875, and these would actually be $300,734.
Anybody have any other questions or discussion on that? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. I'm sorry, 6-0. With one abstain, and I believe she said she wanted to stick out for this next one as well, which we moved to the Haas and Brown Engineers Architect fee payment.
This is the contract that Bill reviewed and we discussed at the last meeting, and that 7% of the total. They're working on a contract now. I think Bill looked at it today. There's some dates and some things that need to be put in for the actual Glassman contract, but this is the engineering fees, $95,205.
I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the payment to Haas and Brown, $95,205 for the architecture fees related to the HVAC system at the Hayes Middle School.
Been moved by Board Member Rankin,
Second.
seconded by Board Member Fox. Any further discussion? The only thing I would say on the one piece here is that due to the fact that we're spending almost $100,000, I think in the future it would be helpful if they could be here to actually go over and answer some of our questions going forward. And I think it could have also helped in Rusty's case to be able to talk about some of that with the other one. So I definitely think it would help if they would actually be here to go over some of that. So that's the only issue that comment I guess I have on that.
Why weren't they?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know if
The first time, I don't know.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, motion, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion passes 4-2 with one abstaining. Okay, I believe we're going to bring Board Member Lang back in. The next item on the agenda is the declaration of impasse for the Board of Education in the HNEA negotiations. And that is basically just recommending the board motion to declare impasse for the current negotiation session with Hayes NEA. This was discussed if the bargaining unit failed to approve the last tentative agreement at the January 13th, 2016 negotiation session. So I would entertain a motion, and we can open it up for discussion.
I would make a motion to declare impasse for BOE HNEA negotiations.
It's been moved by Board Member Waddell.
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Lang, and we'll open it up for discussion.
Just a quiet one, I had one question. When we checked, I guess it's because we said yes, I'm trying to think of one. We said yes and everything, but we had things that were tentatively agreed to. We have to say, because we had no contract, that those tentative agreements aren't there as well.
As far as I know. Is that correct, Bill?
Because it's...
You want to say that again, Paul?
Well, on the form, when you filled it out, can you bring the form up? Oh, thanks. You got to find it in mine, so it's 300 pages down. So.
Yeah.
I guess it was when the has the impasse been reached on the items, we said yes to the items. And I wasn't sure, since everything was rejected, but some of these things I thought we had reached some tentative agreements. That's the only reason I'm asking.
Yeah, well, we had reached a tentative agreement, but when the teachers voted it down, then we have no agreement.
So we have to take the contract as a whole?
Right.
Okay, that was, so I just wasn't sure about that.
One of the questions I had is, it does show that we met 14 times in the start date and the end date, but it doesn't reflect that this was actually the second failed vote, which I think is important. And perhaps they don't need to know that, but the fact that we, reached tentative agreement, the vote failed, went back to the table, tried again, it failed for a second time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, I mean, we started back in, I think it was April of last year, I believe, when we did this. And I mean, 9 to 10 months later, we're still going through this. And as she said, I was 14, or I couldn't remember if it was 14, 15, or 16 negotiation session, but there was a lot of hours put into that. We went back and forth on several occasions, and as Sarah said, I mean, we came to 2 tentative agreements twice, and they were, rejected. The board made sure that its negotiators were, could speak on behalf of the board and come to tentative agreements with that. And in several of the proposals that we talked about with the HNEA, in fact, we accepted several of their counter proposals the way they had written those up. So it's obviously frustrating. A couple of figures here, just to throw out for, I guess, just for everybody's information. $71,874, that's what it costs the district per day for certified wages. So almost $72,000 a day we spend on salaries and things like that. A couple other numbers I want to throw out: $54,461, $51,727, $55,704, and $51,725. Why are those amounts important? Those numbers reflect the checks that I've actually had to sign over the past 4 months for early retirement health insurance. So basically $213,619 for early retirement health insurance over the past 4 months. I had Tracy do some checking, and for the entire year will be between $51,000 and $55,000 a month that this district is spending on early retirement health insurance. That's a lot of money no matter how you look at it. I don't care who you are. It's also part of the reason that the board is trying to phase a lot of this out. We're looking to save some of this money for teachers that are still here. And obviously, once we get rid of some of this stuff, and we go through and free up some of this money, within a year, it could easily be used for the vertical movement that the HNEA is requesting. In fact, you look in approximately 2 months' time, that pretty well funds 1 step of vertical movement, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out the math that, in a short amount of time, we could easily have the 3 steps of vertical movement that they're looking for. Something else.
Even more caught up entirely.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, that's in approximately 8 months we would have that. I mean, that's 4 months left over. You figure at $50,000 to $55,000, that's almost $200,000 or more that would be there. Something else we consistently hear is that we have all this money from attrition, and I'd like to preface this in the fact that on numerous occasions an offer was actually made to the HNEA and their representatives to come up to the office, and Dean and Tracy and I would go through, open the books up so they could see everything we're doing. We'd explain how everything works, what the money went where, so on and so forth. We have nothing to hide, and we didn't want them to have to take our word for it in negotiations. We wanted them to see for themselves. Unfortunately, they didn't find it important enough to come up and do that, and they never took us up on those offers. If we could, and I think, is that the attrition? If we could pull up the slide for the attrition on the projectors, I think.
Well, and I think it's important, at least on the last vote and possibly on the first vote, the overwhelming reason given for not voting for it was salary increase and raises, or steps in vertical movement and raises. So I think to be transparent, it's good to review this information so that everyone's aware that these are funds and money that is not available for those steps currently. It would be outstanding if we did have that, but I think it looks like we have quite a bit of information here. But I think everything up here is to show that.
On that same note, do we have the slide up there that has the attrition stuff, Dean, that you could kind of go over a lot?
Tracy, probably, if you want to explain the general fund and those things, or?
There we go. If we can just kind of go through those, and that basically shows what we have for attrition this year. That way we can answer exactly where all that money is going for.
I guess just a explanation here, when we talk about attrition, it's what we see in salary reductions from people that retired or left and hiring somebody younger that comes in, I can't remember the number of retirees we had last year, but it was pretty substantial. So when we talk about attrition, we're talking about the difference in those salaries, and Tracy can kind of go through where we are and where some of that money goes to. It's not just dollar for dollar that we see that much more in the budget, because there's other things that come out of that as well, so.
In the general fund this year, just through salary savings, we saved $374,745. And then in special education, in certified teacher savings, salary savings was $172,227. And it's important to remember we have to keep those broken out separately, because if we are able to hire, in special education, hire teachers maybe without the same amount of experience, so we've got a large savings there, but that money cannot go to general fund. It has to stay within special education. So even if there would be an extra $100,000 in savings there, we can't use that for anything else other than special education. But then after the salary savings, so for general fund, we had $374,000 in salary savings, but we had an increase in sick leave of $78,800. We had an increase of retiree health insurance of $78,081. We have an increase in health insurance for new staff of $119,000. Most of the staff we are hiring are younger, so they have family coverage, which is more expensive for the district than the teachers who are retiring, who are probably just themselves or them and their spouse. I always plan on a 10% increase in the 403B, which equates this year to $7,200, and this again is just out of the general fund, just for certified staff. So that could, fluctuate, because anybody can sign up for that anytime they choose. We did have the $20,000 we'd budgeted for professional development for the certified staff, and then $15,000 we budgeted for mentoring costs. That was an unfunded mandate by the state that we had to do this year. So when you take all those amounts off of the savings, we have a balance remaining of $56,100, but we already know we're going to have a 6% increase in health insurance next year, which is going to be over $85,000 to the district for the certified staff. So the savings get wiped out pretty quickly when you start looking at the increases in costs due to those retirements also.
So at the end of the day, we're basically $29,052 basically in the hole after attrition money is spent, and with the increase of health insurance.
We will be next year, yes.
So I guess the biggest thing is, just like we've said from day one in negotiations, dealing with especially with because that was one of the first things on there when we were going through this with the vertical movement, is the money just isn't there. And just to answer another question, because it's been asked numerous times and I still get asked about it, and Dean or Tracy kind of touched on it here just a bit ago. No, we cannot move money from special education over to cover this. That's part of the reason the budget was in the mess that originally was, because Peter was being robbed to pay Paul. And we just can't go back down that road. We've finally been able to build a very small contingency fund, nowhere near the recommended amount, but a contingency fund nonetheless. For those of you who don't know, had we not had a contingency fund over the last couple of years, we probably would have unfortunately had to be forced to cut even more positions, and even to possibly make payroll. So yeah, obviously the changes have not been easy on any of this stuff we've done, but we're getting the district back on track, and we're getting it to where it needs to be. And I can say for the first time in almost 20 years that we finally have a balanced budget. So we are making progress, but change is never fun, and I get that. So that's something we've been asked about numerous times in negotiations and everything. Like I said, we've tried to be as honest as possible going through this. As we shared with them, we could have gone through and said, well, gosh, if we have this money left over, we'll go through and we'll give it to you. But we were very upfront and honest and said we didn't really feel that money was probably even going to be there, so we didn't want to even make the promise or even make that suggestion to them, and we were upfront about this. So in my opinion, unfortunately at this time, as we told the NEA at the last negotiation sessions, we really don't have any more to give, and we've made the offers, and I don't see that we can do any more based on the salary figures or the budget figures that we've been given, so I don't see that we really have a choice at this point.
So maybe, and I have to concur with Mr. Bickle there, that we have come to the point, that's a regretful point, it's that really we should be respecting the teachers and trying to get that salary increase, because it was an implied promise, but financial situations they are what they are. So we are at a point where there's nothing more we can give, And there's, what we're seeing is that that seems to be the stumbling point of a block. So as an impasse, I guess clarification from Mr. Jeter there, what does it mean for us to go to impasse?
We go to impasse by filing this petition with the Office of Labor Relations. They will then assign it to a mediator, which will probably be from the Federal Mediation Office in Wichita. We will arrange to do a mediation between the parties at no cost.
And in your professional opinion, at this point where we know where we're at and where we can't cross any further, and we have the other negotiating party that feels that we should be trying, is this an impasse and appropriate thing to do at this point?
Yes.
All right.
We have nothing else to offer.
Okay.
And what's frustrating from our side of it, we've reached, as Sarah indicated, we've reached tentative agreements twice. They've been voted down by the teachers, so that makes it real difficult to know what can we do to reach an agreement, other than salary, which we can't do.
Okay. And so will an impasse help us sort out the issues and?
Hopefully, yes.
And we'll see where we are at the end of it.
That's what a federal mediator does. That's their full-time job.
All right. Thanks.
Any further discussion?
Do you know where we are right now with our general fund and what's tied up in salaries and benefits? Was it last year that we were at 72 or 74%, and the state average is in the lower 60s?
I don't have those numbers offhand.
Okay.
How much we spend total for salary and benefits? Yeah, I would have to look again, John.
I think that's correct, though.
And there's also a frustrated segment of the teacher population. I mean, I think we stand up here or sit up here and pronounce some frustration. Well, it's a two-way street. And every now and again, there's a segment that makes it sound like this is an intention of the board to remove things just because we want to remove. But I do hope it is understood, or at least at some point in time as we move forward with this, there was a time when a lot of things were shifted in the area of benefits to compensate for a lack of monetary compensation. But we've swung so far to one extreme that we have to scale things back and properly balance it so that, number one, we can keep advancement for the teachers that we have here. We can keep putting money back into our education piece, which directly affects the children. And it gives us room to move in the future and to be pressed so far against the wall with where our general fund is tied up with salaries and benefits. We don't have. If something does not change, this is where we will probably be for a very, very long time. Something must change.
And it's regrettable and unfortunate that we are at this point. I don't think any of us will vote on this and take it lightly tonight. I think we all wish that we could have reached an agreement that could have been approved, would have been acceptable to the teachers. If not the first round, the second round. However, hopefully through the impasse process, we may still find that we can.
And I guess, and I think I want to jump on that as well, is that this isn't a commentation of either side or either party. It's just that we've come to the point that we have to agree that we disagree and we need someone from outside to look in. So voting for this one way or the other isn't saying you guys are bad, you guys are good. It's that we can't move any further. We need an outside eye. And I think that's important to get across there. We're asking someone to help us find a way to get to a resolution that can be good for both sides, or at least get us forward so we can move on into the next year. And hopefully, the government will do much better, will fund schools. As you point, the things that we're back since fall aren't even just us, so.
Sure.
But I guess the main thing is, this is not a commendation of anybody. It's just a recognition that we don't have any room to maneuver, we need help.
Agreed.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And Bill, on that, I would assume we'll just, once this is filed now, then we'll just wait to hear from the federal mediator then, as far as whenever we hear back from them, as far as scheduling stuff.
That's right.
All right, next item on the agenda is discussion by board members and agenda requests. So we'll open it up.
It's maybe a general question, but how are we doing in hiring new folks? I mean,
We have some pretty good applicants we're excited about. We'll start doing some of the elementary interviews this Friday. You know, some of our postings at the middle school are tentative, but we don't have an official resignation or retirement, which really holds up the process. We
okay.
have some really good candidates, so we're hoping we will not lose them, but the sooner we make it official from those who will be retiring or resigning would help overall.
All
And then I
right.
know the high school's been doing some interviews as well, and feel like they have some good candidates.
so I've heard.
Yeah, so it's good. We want
Great.
to offer and be able to get those people on board soon.
Okay, great.
Thank you for asking.
Anything else? Okay. Dean, I think we need to do an exec session, I
Yes.
believe.
Personnel?
Personnel. How long are you thinking?
30 minutes?
Okay, make a motion to enter into exec session for a period of 30 minutes to begin at 8:30 and end at 9 o'clock, to include the board, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, director of finance, director of curriculum, the board attorney, for the purposes of personnel. Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.